normally you just go to your doctor and say, write me up an exemption. But, I guess the concern was fraud, and because the risk of spreading COVID if you're not wearing a mask was so great and so severe and such a threat that we can't let anybody get an exemption. I mean, at the end of the day, people have got to correspond with the CPSO and let them know, stop canceling doctors for writing these exemptions. Like, these are people, we need exemptions for these kind of things. And so I think that's the first point of contact.
Tamara Ugolini here with Rebel News to bring you an exclusive interview with advocacy lawyer Daniel Freiheit of Lion Advocacy, who recently sent a powerful letter to the Ottawa Hospital as they have moved to reinstate a mask mandate this week, beginning on Monday, September the 11th. History does not look kindly on the biased, heavy-handed enforcement of mask mandates, and this plea, which urges hospital administrators to consider a more balanced approach by weighing the implications of psychologically and emotionally damaging mask directives with the necessity of a mandate, confirms that, especially in light of the Cochrane Review, which was published in January, that concluded, after a thorough dissection of all existing medical evidence, quote, there was not a clear reduction in respiratory viral infection with the use of medical/surgical masks, end quote. Freiheit included the Ottawa Police Service in his letter, and joining me now to discuss why is Freiheit himself. Have a listen.
I think kind of what concerned me was this pattern, or what I had seen on multiple media outlets of during the pandemic, at least, of disproportionate force being used on people that were not like realistically a threat to others. You would see people being pepper sprayed, assaulted, arrested, people that were not high risk at spreading anything dangerous. They weren't violent folks, but they were being handled in ways that were really uncharacteristic of this great country of ours. So those memories were fresh in my mind. The trauma of having seen all that was like, we can't do a repeat of this. So whatever it takes, if it's a letter, just reminding people that kind of force is just not necessary.
Is there any additional context that you can provide in terms of why it was important to include the police in that letter?
Well, the police are really at the end of the day, the mask mandates are kind of this fiction. What's really being mandated is to wear a mask when you're on premises of a private organization. And so the crime is trespass. So in other words, what they're going to arrest you for or note you up for is being on a property that you don't have a legal right to be on under this common law rule and statutory rule of trespass. And that's where they'll, any owner of private property, in this case, the Ottawa Hospital, can order private security or police to come arrest a person for whatever reason. Meaning for the reason of not leaving the property, for whatever reason being, in this case, not wearing a mask. So what can Canadians do? Normally, you just go to your doctor and say, write me up an exemption. But, I guess the concern was fraud, and because the risk of spreading COVID if you're not wearing a mask was so great and so severe and such a threat that we can't let anybody get an exemption. I mean, at the end of the day, people have got to correspond with the CPSO and let them know, stop canceling doctors for writing these exemptions. Like, these are people, we need exemptions for these kind of things. And so I think that's the first point of contact.
Yeah, definitely. We've seen throughout the COVID pandemic and the pandemonium, the hysteria that ensued, the CPSO really has this stranglehold on private practice and have really meddled in a doctor's ability and capabilities when providing direct patient care. So that's definitely really concerning. In terms of this letter, has it been responded to at all? Have you had any feedback? Has anybody said, you're right, this is justified, what you've said, and we won't be using heavy-handed enforcement?
So between you and me and everybody watching, I tried this on the CPSO and the Toronto Police Services when they said no public access to public meetings. I wrote to the police and I said, don't participate in this. It's a public meeting. You have to let people in. And so in that case, Toronto Police did not show up to block access to the CPSO council meeting. CPSO had to hire private security instead. In that case, I didn't get a response from either Toronto Police or CPSO. In this case as well, the Ottawa Hospital and the Ottawa Police haven't written back to me, and I don't expect they would. But I expect that the Ottawa police will be reluctant. I'm hoping that if they do get a call to arrest and shove somebody to the ground because they're not wearing a mask, I'm hoping that they can, maybe take it a bit easy on, that person, and that they won't be too strict.
Mm-hmm.
My advice is, to hospital administrators across the province. I mean, ask people to wear a mask if you want to, but like if they're not, if they're pushing back, like let it slide. You know what I mean? Again, assuming they're not contagious and they don't have some infectious disease that's a bit of a threat to other patients. Asymptomatic folks, the masks are not the golden standard we thought they were. So
Especially in light of the Cochrane review, which found that they're nothing more than really fancy facial decorations, costly ones at that. Well, thank you for your advocacy work on this and for sharing your letter on public platform of X. Really appreciate that. If you'd like to call on health authorities to never again implement unscientific and indiscriminate mask mandates, then please visit our website and sign our petition and send an email blast campaign at nomoremasks.ca. Not only is this arbitrary measure unjustified, it's also clear that mandates did not work in the past. If you agree that mask mandates are harmful and useless, sign our petition at nomoremasks.ca and send an email to the federal and provincial health ministers. That's nomoremasks.ca.